Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all between the binary. This is Get Informed with Wajeeh. I'm Wajeeh Lion. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you coming. We got a lot of stupid shit happening. Today, an Indian billionaire that was accused of making crimes in the United States, and I'm not sure what crime, like a financial crimes, and the Trump administration or Trump DOJ dismissed his crimes. What is clear to me is that the billionaires work together to undermine the rest of us by electing Donald Trump and putting billionaires in the White House so they can help the rest of the top 1% stay in the top 1% and for the rest of us to pay the price. We keep seeing billionaires getting their crimes aborted. Meanwhile, the police is not covering big crime, is covering small crime. And when the police cover small crime, then they're wasting taxpayer dollars on stupid shit, like kids stealing from a gas station. Yes, we'll call 911 for that. But we don't need 10 cars. We don't need an investigator. What we need is those 10 cars focusing on human trafficking, focusing on uh, looking for financial crimes in the city, huge big drug dealers. Although I'm against the war on crime, but you focusing on small time crimes is what's wasting our money. We keep taking the small fishes, and the big fish is the one hiring the small fish. We'll take out the big fish. The big fish is the one spreading the disease. You take out the diseased fish, you're still having the cause of the problem. Why does Iran accept the Trump coin? I think it's like on one hand a joke, on the other hand it is like a carrot for Trump to make him money. Like, look at us, we're at least giving you some money by making the purchases using the Trump coin. I forgot who was elected previously. Um, what about him though, Teresa? Help me understand the question a little bit more about why you want to know his name so I can remember who he is. Anyways, if you have any questions, type them in the live chat or go to my, which I prefer if you go to my group chat and type your questions on there. It makes my life much easier. Good morning, Mama K. I hope your surgery is now healing well. It's taking its time. Doctors are, I feel like medicine in the United States needs a lot of, you can say, easily a lot of reforms. I'm going to one of the best hospitals in the world, and it's in the United States, and I'm still facing like racism or like medicine with old standards. Like if you tell them you're in discomfort, they still think like you're making it up for some reason. It is sickening to watch him on TV. What can we do? He's your supreme leader. Please respect him. His Majesty is doing his best to represent his country. Please respect His Royal Excellency. Someone's asking about is Saudi Arabia a guest culture, then in contrast to a ask culture. If you are like a foreigner, they love if you ask. If you are from within, it's both a guessing and asking, because Saudi Arabia is or the Gulf state or Arab countries is very much like the rest of Eastern countries. They have a lot of social rules, and not all the rules are written by law. We call it Araf, which is cultural rules, where is known to have taken place for thousands of years and don't need to be writing. But if you're a Westerner coming there learning, they love that you ask. They love when you ask, is this okay? Is that not okay? What's the right thing to do? It shows that you care. It shows that you're wanting to learn. It shows that you're interested. And when you're there, everyone feels like they're an ambassador to, or they want to represent their country the best they could. There are outliers who are, selfish. There are outliers who want to take advantage of Westerners, but majority of the time you'll find people welcoming, hospitable. They will invite you to their house or take you to a coffee shop or take you to a restaurant. And if you say no, they will insist because the culture um, is they would expect you that you're saying no out of respect. Um, Especially in Oman. People in Oman don't take a no. We know this even in Gulf states. Like you'll ask them, "Oh, I'm traveling in this small, village, and I'm looking for such and such." And the funny thing, what they will do is like, "Come, I'll show you," and they'll show you the way to their house. And after they show you the way to their house, they'll give you coffee, they'll give you tea, and they'll feed you. And then you're like, but what about such and such? And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, we'll take you to him. But first, we have to do the hospitality. Motherfucker, I'm in a rush. I need to go to this guy. No, 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 no. I insist. I insist. You must come. We must feed you. We must give you cologne. We must give you tea. And then we show you the way to wherever you want to go. That's the people of Oman. Hospitality is almost like a religious, a religious, um, it's a religious duty. Yeah, we love fragrances, and we are in the Arab world considered to be one of when you're walking in the mall and you see some brown person passing by you, and all of a sudden you're smelling a whole bunch of fragrances for for the next 30 minutes. That's mostly either a Latino or an Arab that emptied half of the bottle of the cologne on them before they leave. And part of, after you eat or once you come into the house, one of the first thing that they do is they have rose water that is made especially in a uh, interesting way, that the first thing that they do is they freshen you up because it's kind of grounding. And then they'll bring, some sort of incense, bahur, we call it, that is, usually high end stuff. I import my stuff from the Middle East, and that also adds another level to grounding. And then they bring in the tea and the dates, and then they bring in some dessert. And if they're gonna feed you, then they bring in the food. And depending on who you are, the tea is served first, and then when they serve you coffee in Saudi Arabia, for example, in Riyadh, that's their way of saying it's time for you to go. So there is etiquette, there is way of doing it, but depending on where you are in the Arabian Peninsula or in the Arab world, they're all going to be very insistent on you to have some sort of hospitality. The Iraqi people will just feed you for free on the street, like while you're passing. They once they know that you're not from Iraq, even the restaurant owners will give you food for free. They'll be like, "Come, come," and they'll feed you, and then you come to pay, and they're like, "No, no, we're not taking any money." So hospitality is amazing. Visiting the Middle East is not a bad thing. If we get a lot of bad rep, but the reality of the matter is that we are some of the most hospitable, loving people. The fact of the matter is we have a lot of people that have a lot of foreign leaders that have caused a lot of mischief, I would say. They've had caused a lot of corruption. They have caused a lot of instability in the Middle East, and all of that created a vacuum of power. Oh, I have a library of incense, but my favorite is oud, aged in amber oil and rose oil, and that's usually aged for a few months. And after it's aged in the oil, it comes out, and then they put it in different glass jars and they ship it. But since Trump was in office, I haven't been getting able to get any shipment from Dubai, but anything. I haven't been able to buy anything from Dubai. Not fragrances, not bahur, not even jewelry. Um, there's a lot of people don't understand where amber comes from, and it comes from, I'm talking about ambergris. It comes from the whale, and it kind of gets a little disgusting. But when the whale eats a an octopus, and that octopus in particularly filled with a lot of ink, from my understanding, the whale does not have the ability of processing that ink, so that ink collects in a way and gets fermented inside the whale, and the whale throws up that ink, and it becomes like a solid rock form almost. It looks between gray to black, and that's what we call ambergris. It gets washed up to the shore, and if you're a collector, not amber as ink, amber that is no, not amber as ink. The octopus that is eaten by the whale, and that the octopus has that ink in it, the whale is not able to process that ink, but it ends up going, so it does not, there is no nutrients for that, but it processes in a certain way inside the whale's stomach, and the whale throws it up, and it comes out like a rock form. And then they take that out, and then some people grind it, some people find a way to clean it, and then make it into an oil form. And then after it's an oil, musk comes from animals, pure musk. Animal musk comes from Giselle. And it's also a disgusting thing, so we don't have to talk about it. But it's like we love our fragrances, we love our, but if we're not careful, we can contribute to a lot of environmental damages like oud. Oud, a scientific English name is like called agar wood. And unfortunately, usually it grows only in the wild after a specific type of tree gets sick with fungi. And that fungi in that tree becomes like a certain, creates a certain fragrance in that tree that has caused a lot of deforestation. Recently, we were able to find out what exactly fungi makes that tree a little sick and creates that oud, and now we can farm it. But unfortunately, there are people who are like wild oud purists that think that only deforestation is the best thing, and the farmed oud is not real oud, which it is scientifically real oud. It's like someone telling me like lab made diamonds are not real diamonds. I'm like, they are real diamonds. They're just lab made diamonds. So yeah, you just have to know your source, know what you're buying, learn about the raw products. I am a fragrant connoisseur. Is the culture in Saudi Arabia? I just answered that. When you and Malcolm were talking about it this morning, you said the winner of this election was more friendly toward the Iranian. Uh, that was Jacob that said that they were more friendly toward the Iranians. I wasn't that aware of it. But what I was aware of is that in the same time, I was kind of surprised when I found out they were more friendly toward the Iranians, because my surprise to that was the United States came out and strongly congratulated the new elected president, who is very, very aligned with Iran. So the United States is having a war with Iran. The new president of Iraq is closely allied with Iran, and the United States comes out and congratulate the new Iraqi president. So I was kind of confused. It's like, wait a minute, what are we talking about here? Why is the new Iraqi president, who is strongly allied with Iran, being congratulated by the United States? That just didn't make any sense to me. And apparently, the United States just doesn't have any choice. Mm, this is not to say that the previous president of Iraq wasn't pro Iran. The previous president of Iraq was pro Iran, but he just wasn't as extremist pro Iran as the current one, just to add to the point. Uh, things can make sense. Someone says nothing makes sense anymore. I'm so sad. I'm so sorry that it feels like this. And it shouldn't have to feel like a full time for you to understand what's going on in the Middle East. But the sad reality is, right, that your comfortable life in the Western world hasn't happened out of a vacuum. Your comfortable life in the Western world happened because of a globalized economy and our dependency on the Middle East. For example, when you have access to strawberries in the winter, do you think those strawberries grow in the United States? No. Egypt has to sacrifice a lot of its own farmland and its own food security to do trades with the United States, where they farm strawberries in Egypt during the winter so they could send it to the United States so Americans could have strawberries in the winter. That's just a small example. Whatever comfort of life that you have in the United States, you have used it to step on another country in another world. It hasn't come out of a vacuum. So the sad reality is if we don't do our homework on who we are dependent on and why we are dependent on them, we are always going to be confused and not understand why things are happening the way they are and why countries are responding the way they are. It's just, I'm sorry. A lot of people don't have the time to go and educate themselves about it. They have businesses, they have families, they have kids, they have life. The American economy sucks at the moment, where most US citizens are paycheck to paycheck. But the reality is that the bubble that you live in, the comfort that you have, hasn't come out of nowhere. It came because you're dependent on us. And the in the third world. You're dependent on the coffee that comes from South America that's sold for cheap, so you can get it at a cheap price. Meanwhile, if they would have sold it at an actual market price, you'd be paying a huge premium at the moment for just your coffee. Chocolate is there's a shortage on the world economy, yet the United States gets to have access to cheap chocolate every day. All of that is going to change overnight if we don't end this kind of blockade of oil. I am so sorry, but that's the reality. I don't want this to be the reality. I was watching someone yesterday telling me, like I why do I have to like he goes, I actually am mad that I have to know what the Strait of Hormuz is. I'm like, okay, then you should stop buying any products that come from the Strait of Hormuz. You don't care. I understand that life is hard, but that's the reality. Someone was happy to see the gift box there this morning. Thank you. Uh, do we have a strategic reserve of LNG? If we did, it would be low. It would be low. Let me check. The United States does not have a strategic reserve of LNG, but they do produce LNG. The answer to your question. Someone goes, that is very similar to the culture in Spain, where you don't accept the offer for the first two times, but then you accept the offer for the third time. That is exactly the rule. And if you refuse the third time, that means that you're really busy or you're seriously not able to show up, which can be taken as offense depending on who you're talking to. And so, like, if your professor is inviting or your boss or something, or the leader of a tribe, then like you're more obligated to say yes, right? But then if like you're seriously busy, then you have to take into like, oh no, I genuinely have to go to the hospital or I genuinely have to go to the school or like I'm actually late to work. Yes, this administration doesn't know anything about world politics. they're not cultured. They're not educated about it. When they talk America first, and then they get seduced within minutes of any royal treatment. And the funny thing, Trump himself, when he was running for election for the first term, he goes, "Yeah, look at all these Americans. When they run for office, they get easily wooed about when they first enter the U.S. Congress because it looks so majestic. It's so big. They get easily wooed." And we're like, "Bitch, please try us. We'll woo you even more." He came to the Middle East and couldn't resist a minute of being wooed. It's serious. Trump himself said, "Oh, no one's gonna. I'm a billionaire. Who's gonna woo me? I'm a billionaire. I'm so rich." The Trump administration made like what, $50 billion in this so far? $50 billion. Which president in the United States made $50 billion in his administration? Not for the country, for his own pockets. He went to China, taking U.S. businessmen. He took his son. What is NATO's situation due to us withdrawing from Poland? Listen, the United States needs Europe, whether Trump likes it or not. Um, we're dependent on their security. We're dependent on their bases for strategic reserves, not strategic placement, uh, strategic mechanics, doctors, uh, nuclear weapons, missiles, everything you can think of is there. And the whole point is to stop the Russian expansion in the region. But we do have our supreme leader, His Majesty, is very much aligned with Putin. And I believe that easily Putin has blackmail on him. Easily. There's no way. There's no way. Haven't you guys heard the head of immigration border patrol or something resigned? Well, who resigned? I forgot. If you guys could check the news this morning, someone from the Trump administration regarding immigration resigned. You know, we thought maybe this administration uh, would have learned from their previous administration, and they have learned from their previous mistakes. Uh, the reality is there's a high turnover of people working for Trump. What does that tell you? That you have an unstable White House. When every few months you change your people working from you, the chain of command gets lost, the responsibility gets lost, The communication gets lost, the ball gets dropped. We miss a lot of things that we were working on, and it doesn't become America first. By the way, if you're tuning in, thank you so much for coming in. My name is Wajeeh Lion. I'm an international human rights activist, political organizer, geopolitical analyst, and political asylee slash permanent resident here in the United States. I focus on Middle Eastern conflict and U.S. Middle Eastern relations. We are covering Trump on the Middle East and answering questions that you might have regarding that U.S. Middle Eastern current interactions or Middle Eastern history. If you have any questions about Middle Eastern history, I'm happy to answer that. If I know it, or about Islamic ideology or extremist ideology, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have about that. We've talked about all of that in the past. If you're liking this type of content and if you want to continue getting educated, join the revolution. Like, subscribe, and share. Subscribing for my channel is free, whether it's on here or on YouTube. You can become a paid subscriber, especially on Substack. That paid subscription helps us a lot, paying the bill and keeping the lights on so we could do this full time so you don't have to do it full time. And we can also give away a lot of premium memberships to anyone that cannot afford it. So, payment wouldn't be a wall for you from getting educated. I want anyone and everyone to have access to this information. We just need the money to keep going and do the work that we do. So please consider becoming a paid subscriber. It's only $5 a month or $35 a year. So less than a cup of coffee or, a meal out a year. So it's on purpose that cheap so you can have access to it. I'm literally the cheapest subscription on Substack that you can literally find. If you do the math and look around, everyone is charging $8, $7, $10. I'm purposely charging this low so you can have access to the information. Uh, the because there's a lot of someone's like, why is the limit starting a new VIP membership is $300? And starting a thread on my live chat would become hectic if everyone would be typing in right away. And we've had problems with anti-Semitism and racism in the past. So just to control who's posting and when they're posting, we're having only VIPs having the ability to start a new thread. But you can respond to all of the messages that we put, or you can respond to all of the threads. If you have a direct question, you could send me a direct message immediately, and I look at all of the direct messages that you guys send me, and I try to respond to the ones that I think that I can help out with. So that's why VIPs are the only ones that are able to start a thread. Usually there are people that are very close to the program, and the VIP only started just because people were asking to be able to give more to the program. And that's exactly why it exists. Is if you want to support us more than the $35, there is a chance that you can support us between $300. And I think I have set it up so you could pay whatever you can as well. So consider becoming a VIP member if you can. Let's go back to the questions. Someone says kids learned very little about Middle East in school. Either it's just the geography or ancient history, but it's not too much about the culture. Every time you talk about it, I'm just hypnotized. I know everyone would like to hear more. The Middle Eastern history is very magical, especially if you look pre-Islam, and even after post Islam. But if you look at before Islam has been there was so many deities around the Kaaba. Uh, different. It was very. A lot of people don't understand how inclusive it was. Different faiths had their own deities on the Kaaba or around the Kaaba, and people from different religions would come and worship their own deity or their own god around the holy building. And that included anyone that was traveling from Asia or traveling from Europe or coming from the Levant. Arabia was the Arabian Peninsula, and the Mecca was considered to be just south of the middle of the old world. So it was a perfect spot for traders to, to stop by Mecca, and Mecca made itself a business hub at the time. And they were very strategic by creating this inclusive uh, uh, city. After Islam came out, the whole idea was to destroy all of these deities and unite it and have only one God, uh, which has its own complicated history, in my own opinion. It's not it is not just black and white, but it's also not white. Muslims had their own viewpoints about exploring the world. We talk about a lot about European colonization, but we never talk about Islamic expansion and colonization, which basically has forced Arabic onto the rest of the Middle Eastern region and Northern Africa. Someone was saying that the culture is very similar to Spain. Spain was conquered for 600, 700 years. So a lot of the language, a lot of the cultures, it's shared between Arabs and Spaniards, um, and on and on and on and on. So Egypt are pharaohs. The pharaohs and old Egyptians and ancient Egyptians had their own religions and had their own languages, and now they speak Arabic and they practice Islam. Same thing in the Levant region, same thing in Iraq, same thing and and Iran, same thing in the rest of the Middle East. And we are only dealing with post-Islam era, which is very complicated because you have people that are coming from different background, that have different faith, that had different faiths, that are now joining Islam, and there is conflict of cultures, there's conflict of ethnicities, and that's why it's more complicated because we don't understand that many people who come from these regions see themselves as they have been oppressed by Islam. And many people see themselves that Islam was the reason that they have all of the nice things that they have today. They said that without the Ottomans, without the Islamic Empire, we wouldn't have all the knowledge that we have when it comes to surgeries. We wouldn't have the mathematical equations like algebra and um, geometry and many other types of math. Wouldn't have the zero would have not been created without the Islamic state at the time, the Islamic Ummah, the Islamic nation, the expansion. So you have two arguments that are going out at the same time. And when Muslims were expanding, they weren't giving really good options to those countries that they were expanding into. For example, when they invade to a country, they usually give that country three options. Either you pay taxes and keep your faith and become allied to us and we start protecting you, or you convert to Islam, or your third option is we go to war. So Muslims showing up to the borders, getting ready for war, and they're also giving two other options. You either convert or you pay taxes. Now, depending who you ask, these are all bad options or these are options. Muslims go like, we gave them options. We are very nice people. We are the people that at least have not invaded you right away. And it's confusing, right? Like, yeah, I guess you're giving me the carrot and the stick, but how much different is that from European? How different is that from European imperialism? It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. They both force their culture and ideology and religion on a whole bunch of countries that don't have anything to do with it. And now all of these countries practices it. So the same exact complications that we're seeing as a result of that imperialism from European countries is as much of as a result from Islamic ideology. Islam is the name of the religion, and Muslim is the name of the person practicing that religion. Like Buddhism and Buddha. This person is, well, no, like Christian and Christianity. Sorry. Like Jewish and Judaism. Muslim is the one practicing, and Islam is the name of the religion. There's no stupid questions here, guys. No stupid questions. All questions are good questions. Someone said your consciousness on upbringing Middle Eastern culture, amazing. These here, I like to see myself as an ambassador to bridging those two cultures together and finding commonalities between rather than differences. A lot of people don't understand that we are way more in common than we are different. Even the conservative extremists between Westerners and Middle Easterns have way more in common than differences, believe it or not. A Bedouin Arab has a lot more in common with a redneck American. You want the similarities? They both love sitting in the middle of nowhere. They both love their guns. They both love their animals, whether they're cows, sheeps, or camels. They both love their women and they both have a lot of sexism. They're both male run ideology. Man first and then the rest of they're both family oriented. Those are common things. They're both very religious. Same exact thing. They even worship the same God. They believe exactly in the same God. Just one person thinks that Jesus is the Son of God, and the other person thinks Jesus is a prophet of God. That's the only difference. Main difference. This is the biggest main difference. Muslims love Jesus and they love Mary, And sometimes they believe they love Mary and Jesus more than Christians. That's what they believe. To the point where they have a chapter in the Quran named after Mary. Commonalities are always there. We just get riled up about what's happening in the world. We keep ignoring what makes us similar and we keep focusing on what makes us different and we fight about it. Do you think the spirit realm is playing a part in the unjust war on Iran? Religion has, in his recent history, especially, and when I mean recent history, I mean the last 5, 10,000 years. Recent history, recent human history. Most of war were by men and by use the name and the rhetoric of religion to unite people around that war, or it is for tribal reasons. There are other reasons, but most of the war that has happened, other than survival, expansionism, I think 10,000 years too far. 5,000 years. 5,000 years. The last 5,000 years, in terms of expansionism, in terms of which country took which country, in terms of ideology. Most of it is on ideology and most of it about men. Some of it were men fighting over women. Some of it were they were fighting about food. Some of it were fighting about resources, but mostly they used the word of religion to unite people. Why is it important to separate religion from state? Because it's in the best interest of a religion to be pure. The best way I can explain it is napkin is white. I'm not I'm an atheist, right? As someone who was very very religious. When you look at a napkin, a white napkin, it's very white. And you look at the ink, it's colored black, for example. You take that white, for example, napkin, and the ink is the politics, and you join them together, the religion is always going to be marked. The religion is always going to be blamed because it is used as an excuse for political actions. And political actions are always connected to personal interest, and personal interest is always connected to what? Corruption. My personal interest connected when I'm working in public office and I'm trying to look after my personal interests, I'm going to use the word of religion to justify whatever actions I do, whether it's Islam or Christianity or Buddhism or or Hinduism or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. They all have that in common. We're not singling out a single faith here. That's just the nature of humans. So when we say separate religion from state, it's in the best interest of that faith not to get involved because once that faith is justifying the killing of human lives, history will go back and point that out. Catholic Church is learning from that mistake. Pope Francis, before he died, he visited most of the countries that the Catholic Church has invaded and apologized to native ethnic nations in North America and South America. And when and in the Middle East, and when he passed away, the poor the minority, the ethnic groups that have been, subjected by the Catholic Church for generations, came out and gave their blessings to before he was put away uh, in his grave. We should at least learn from that. Admitting your mistake is a very honorable thing, but we're not even there yet. We should learn from these mistakes. We should stop invading other countries. And then we get surprised that people come and apply asylum in our country. You know how stupid you are when people come from other countries and applying for asylum in your country and you're like telling them to get the fuck out. When you go and invade their country and you go and tell them how great and amazing your country is, and people come and volunteer to be part of your military, to be translator, cultural bridges to you and their culture, and they get targeted by their own people, and they're hoping for this amazing country to come to. And they come to the United States and apply for asylum only to get a slap in the face and tell them go back where that you came from, and they're viewed as traitors from the countries they are. You know how stupid you look when you go and invade countries and these people all of a sudden have all of their homes destroyed and they hear about this amazing country and they see no longer a future in their economy and they want to be a part of a good economy, they're going to come to your country because you told them how good your economy is, and they no longer see a future in their economy. Create the future in their country so they could stay in it, so they don't come to your country. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about why people in South America are leaving South America and coming to the US? Because we were part of the drug war. We have created so much instability in South America. We have caused so many countries to fall that they have resulted in dictatorships, and we have resulted in militias and a whole bunch of gangs shooting each other in the middle of the street that people had to leave. Where are they going to leave? They're going to come to the United States. Why? Because it's the only country that has some future possibility in it. You create stability, people stay. You create instability, they will find somewhere else to go. It's the nature of humanity. Humans have always migrated from one place to another since they have existed on this planet. So it's unnatural of you to stop that immigration from happening. Unnatural. It's the nature of humanity to emigrate, to move from one place to another. One time I had one of my friends from high school that went to college. He goes, and this is a real fear. He goes, I'm afraid of immigrants. And I was, why are you afraid of immigrants? At the time, it wasn't economy. Economy was doing good. At the time, it wasn't culture because there was no culture war. He said, I fear that there will be no more white people. We all get mixed together and there will be no more pure white race. I looked at him. I said, did you do your DNA? Did you test your DNA? Because there's no such thing as pure race. Your dad's dad could have been in the US, but before him, they came from somewhere else. That's why you need to be informed. That's why knowing what's going on in the rest of the world is important. That's why knowing where you actually come from 35, 100 grandpas ago, not 5 grandpas ago. I know my grandpa 35 grandpas ago. He's the descendant of the Prophet, Prophet Muhammad. I know them name by name, and I have a map of it. I'm privileged to know that lineage. But I also know that my mom is Syrian, my dad's mother is Egyptian, and my dad's grandma is Turkish because everyone immigrates and people marry outside the family. So even if your dad is white, he might have married someone else. Just, just, it's frustrating sometimes. Um, it is playing. So is the spirit war playing a part in this war? Yes. Pete Hegseth himself has showed us how much religious rhetoric he's been using, and some of it is fake, used by AI. Comes out and uses the verses from the Bible to go to war, and when the Catholic Church says that is unmoral, they go, focus on your job. Motherfucker, you're using the word of God to go to war, and you're like telling the church to stay out of it when they say that's not moral. And when the Pope says that something is not moral, he's not stepping out of his job. He's talking about something in his job. That's literally his job. Additionally, he's the head of a state. He's a diplomat, and the U.S. citizenship that he has, he can put it in a shredder at this point. His whole name got changed, became Pope Leo. What are you talking about? How dare you talk to him from a head of state to another head of state like that? Who are you? Who are you talking to Pete Hegseth, His Royal Excellency, His Majesty? Trump takes a lot of advantage when it comes to Christianity. He has his own Bible. He has a special version for the USA. He has a special version for US veterans, and none of that money goes to them. All that money goes to his pocket. Just brand names. This is for the veterans. This is for America. And all the money goes to his pocket. Nothing goes to the veterans. Nothing goes to America. Just arrived. Welcome to the space. Did you address whether Sunni or Shia was the most responsible for Islamic scholarships? What kind of scholarships are you talking about? They both have a lot of scholarships, and they both have their Islamic universities. And believe it or not, they all have their PhD programs in Islamic teachings. I think that that's funny because I don't see how religious teachings can be academic. But there is college degrees where you go and study, you know, theology in Western universities, but it's not the same as the religious studies that if you go and get like Sharia undergraduate or Sharia masters or Sharia PhD, and then you specialize in what kind of Sharia you're in, whether you're in general teachings or whether you're in Sharia law or whether you're an Islamic or family orientation or financial Islamic regulations. It gets really deep, and that's why it kind of becomes a little bit academic. because a lot of people want to apply it in and transfer it, and so it becomes part of the culture, laws, and norms, and that's why it kind of becomes academic. But when I look at religion theology, I I'm biased in my own views, and because I'm biased in my own views, I don't see how someone. I was gonna go get my Sharia law and just to have additional background in Sharia and have a degree, so I could say I have a degree in Sharia law. But it basically means you sat down and studied all the books that provide the regulations and of Sharia. But is there a single book that's called Sharia law? There is not a single book called Sharia law. A Sharia, it is the words and the regulations that is issued by a musharri'. Musharri' is the person issuing that law. So a judge, essentially, a Muslim judge that has the background of being a clerk with all the Sharia background, and they are the ones responsible for issuing the law. The Islamic philosophy before that, Sharia is the way a Muslim would follow that these orders so they could follow the path of going to heaven. So, in order for you as a Muslim to follow all the rules and regulations, you sit back and you ask your religious clerks, what does Sharia say about gay marriage? What does Sharia say about not praying 5 times a day? What does Sharia say about not fasting Ramadan? What does Sharia say about marrying a non Muslim? What does the Sharia say about drinking alcohol? What does Sharia say about killing massacres? What does Sharia say about jihad? What does Sharia say? Everything goes back to the rules of Sharia. But the rules of Sharia is not in a book, it's in books. And it differs from ideology to ideology, from faith to faith. One of the biggest jokes that I have is that there were two Muslims and they were fighting each other. One goes, smoking cigarettes is halal. And the other one goes, how dare you say smoking cigarettes is halal? Smoking cigarettes is haram. So they say, okay, we're going to go to the sheikh. The sheikh is going to tell us exactly whether smoking is halal or haram. So they go and they go to the sheikh and they sit down and goes, yeah, sheikh. Yeah, yeah means, oh, sheikh. We are fighting. He goes, what are you fighting about? Whether smoking is halal or haram. Halal means permissible. Haram means forbidden. So the sheikh goes, oh, that's a good question. I need to fix my mood first. So he takes out a cigarette and lights it up. He goes, إذا هي حلال فنحن بنشربها. If it's halal, we're smoking it. And if it's haram, we're burning it. Just to tell you about like how it could be different from one sheikh to another. So states at that point had to find a solution. State had to find solutions. So they now had to point the Grand Mufti. They created the position called the Grand Mufti. The Grand Mufti is the Mufti appointed by the state to issue religious rulings from the fatwa. You'll hear, weird ass fatwas that will come out from people who are not appointed by by the state, and some of it is really, really weird shit. Some of it, rest of the society would look at and say that's disgusting, even from Muslims. And it would create a political or cultural riots. But a lot of times, these grand muftis, they're loyal to the regime. So they will, like the Grand Mufti of Syria when Bashar al Assad was the president, was justifying all the killings that the Assad regime was doing for the Muslims in Syria. Similar things happened by the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia and the attacks in Yemen. Similar things you'll see from different countries. So a lot of times people lose their faith in the Mufti, the Grand Mufti of a state, and they would look for alternatives. So they'll look for a TV personality that became famous with their religious identity on TV. Like you see how America has their own pastors and preachers that have their own talk shows. It's very similar in Islam. You'll have Muslims that have clerics that'll have their own talk shows and become famous. And I have pictures with many of them growing up. They're all over my Instagram. I was a child with some of them, and some of them I was an adult, but I was practicing Muslim. And they will go and ask them their advice or their fatwa on certain subjects because they no longer trust the Grand Mufti statements. It's kind of weird, but that's just the background on all of that. So, when it comes to Sharia law, there are people who are extremists in Muslim ideologies, and I sat down and think tank groups where Muslims were openly talking about how can we implement Sharia law in the United States. Has that conspiracy happened in terms of conversation? Yes, I've seen it happen in person. Have I seen it getting applied? No. I have not seen anyone being able to apply it in the United States. There are some states that will allow two Muslims to sign a document to have an imam give a religious ruling between them in the United States. But they both have to consent to having that ruling by a religious mufti or by a religious mufti. Mufti is the person giving the Sharia law fatwa, and the fatwa is the religious ruling. So, believe it or not, in the United States, some states are allowing Muslims to apply Sharia law between themselves. And when Muslims need to get married, it needs to be approved by the mosque, which is applying Sharia law on that point, because it has to go through a mosque. So it's a little complicated, where you do have conspiracy theorists or conspiracists who are like saying, "Look, there's a Muslim invasion." On the other hand, there are extremist Muslims who would like to see that type of change in the Western world. That both two things can be true at the same time. More than two things can be true at the same time because many Muslims ran away from Islamic extremism and came to the United States because of its separation of religion and state. So three things can be true. Someone says same thing with other religions too. Yeah, there's many Christians in the United States that would like to apply Christian laws in the United States. I'm just telling you as someone who was an insider in Islamic extremist groups. I know this. It has happened in terms of conversation, but I haven't seen anything happens in terms of action. Too many Americans refuse to learn. They're going to be put in a situation where they are first forced to learn. And I believe many Americans who are sitting in this group and Westerners are like affected directly by this conflict. Many people that are following me, they either have family members who are fighting this war, they have family members who have been deployed before this war started, who that don't know what their how or what their family members are doing. Um, there are people who are in this that are directly their businesses that are directly affected that cannot can no longer uh, afford basic bills and you know yes, like I'm starting to walk around with some cash to give away to people. That's the type of economy that you live in. When you walk around, people, almost everyone in the neighborhood needs 5 20 bucks to buy some either some gas or some milk or some eggs, basic necessity. Not talking about going to grab some ice cream. No, 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 basic necessity. That's the reality of the situation in the United States. That means your bubble is about to burst. That means all your comfort that you're used to is about to go away. If this shit continues, houseless people deserve a place to go. Houseless people, we have a lot of goddamn empty malls. Can we convert them to some sort of living facility? Can we put some medical facilities in there as well? Can we put some rehabilitation facilities as well? It's a goddamn mall. It's big enough for everything. Why can't we convert them? The mall is empty. There's no, like, it's closed. It's shut down. There's so many cities in the United States with shut down malls. There's not a single store in it. Can we convert them so we don't send them to prison, spend 10 times or 100 times more the money on them? You want to sweep all of the people away, put them in a place, give them a goddamn, okay, you don't want to give them a mall. At least give them a park so they can put a tent. Give them some bathroom and hygienes. Have a drug safety test center. So if there are any drug addicts, they don't put fentanyl in the system. They go test it so they could see that if it's laced with something else or not. Those same facilities showed studies that they have been able to get a lot of people to step away from drugs. Why? Because we had facilities that can test whether this drug has the has been uh, cut with something else, or is it safe to use? Give them basic stuff. You don't want to see needles on the street. You don't want to see needles in your park. Give them a safe place to throw the needles away. Don't tell me that you don't want to see needles and throw them in the middle of the prison and then they come out and they will go use more needles. That's not going to stop them from using needles. Give them safe places to go. Make them feel human. Make them feel seen. The other day, I swear, and I'm the type of person that fights for houseless rights. The other day, I passed by houseless groups, and my brainwashed ideology went, why aren't they like at a different place? Because they're in front of my house. The first thing that came to mind, why are they in front of my house? What kind of shady shit doing? And I'm the type of person that wants to think that every person is good. But that's the type of brainwashing that we have been getting into. And I have to stop myself. I said, shit, I just did what I've been preaching against doing all this time. Holy shit, I did it. And it wasn't like a month ago. It was just last week where I judged a houseless person for being houseless. And I had to stop myself and go, holy shit, I just did what I've been preaching against. So, take a minute, think about the fact that this could be a veteran. Think about that this is the son and daughter of someone that is loved. Think about that this is the result of a systematic failure that has let down US citizens, and that's not the result of being lazy. That's the result of a systematic failure. When you see the mistake being repeated over and over and over, it's because you have a systematic failure. And when you have a factory and you have a systematic failure, the factory keeps producing mistakes. You need to stop the factory. You need to fix a mistake so things can get fixed up. Wajid, thanks for the answer. But do you think you believe that democratic spirits are influencing some of the political military madness? But I am not believing the bad actors of their responsibilities. I have no clue what you're asking me. I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Religious extremist comes from all backgrounds. Someone's like, we're all children of Abraham, but what supremacist Bible people basically don't actually know what the book they are holding up says. I mean, that's true, but religious extremism happens a lot of times when it is connected with nationalist ideology. And you could also see that happening in India. You could see it happening in Myanmar. You could see it happen in Africa with different faiths, Christians, Hindus, Buddhas. It happens everywhere. And it's just about recognizing that similarities and recognizing when nationalism and religious extremism mix together, it kind of creates this extremist type of ideology where it basically wants to eradicate everyone but them, which is very dangerous. Very dangerous. It happens a lot of places. You're not the only one facing that issue in the globe, but just understanding that anyone could have that ideology makes it a little bit easier. Also, yesterday we talked about how we can always face people that we disagree with an open heart, with a smile, people that we even might see as enemies with an open heart, with a smile. And someone says like you're being Gandhi. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be Gandhi here. Hold, wait a minute. Have you seen any of the uh, Mormons or missionaries knock your door and come in and talk to you? They always come talk to you with a smile, even if they're judging you through that smile. They're always talking to you and they're not yelling back, even if they're offending their belief, even if you say something really against their ideology, because they want to win you over. They want you to convert. They want you to see the truth that they have to tell you, that they see that is the truth. So when you take a minute and you see someone that you strongly disagree with, the way to win them over is by finding what's in common between you and them. And the reality is you have way more in common than you think. You have way more in common than you think. And when we try to bring these commonalities together, we can convince each other that we are fighting the wrong fight. Instead of fighting what religion is right, instead of fighting Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're a liberal or conservative, we should be fighting the classist ideology that's separating us all apart and making us fight each other over all small pieces. Because these billionaires come from different faiths, but they're not fighting each other. They're fighting us. They're fighting you. Whether they're liberal, conservative, Hindu, or Christian, or Muslim, or Jewish, they're all billionaires that don't give a shit about the rest of us, that don't give a shit about the environment, that don't give a shit about the political economy, the political situation, that don't give a shit about whether the Strait of Hormuz opens or not because they have back deals with the military, they have back deals with the government, and they're all making profit. You just need to step back and look at the bigger picture, because the bigger picture shows you something way more systematic. All these billionaires find ways that even if they fuck up, they don't lose their assets. Their company's assets is owned by uh, a holding that's owned by a trust fund, and that trust fund is owned by a holding company, and that holding company is owned by the billionaire. So when you sue the company, you're suing something that's worthless. That's only list of people. And when you get someone, you're getting a fraction of the price, and they're sitting somewhere in Geneva, they're sitting somewhere in Monaco, they're sitting somewhere in Germany sipping wine, and you're the one dealing with the trauma. You get like three levels that you gotta get to. They have ways where the tax cuts they get, they send away. They don't. Have you ever seen trickle down happen to you? When was the last time you got to trickle down? A one that's actually worth your time and money. You need to understand that the war is not between right and left, Muslim or Christian, or a different nation to nation. It is between the rich and the poor. Seriously. And when I say rich, I'm not talking about millionaires, because millionaires are not even. There was, Jon Stewart, before he retired the first time from The Daily Show. He did a piece because millionaires were complaining that money trickle down economy doesn't go down from billionaires to millionaires, and that they are facing hard time from becoming billionaires. Did you know that? And one time they had a petition or something like that where they were trying to make it like they were trying to make something happen about becoming billionaires and not being able to become billionaires. There's a huge jump between being a millionaire and billionaire. And that jump is the same difference between being able to buy a house to being able to buy Twitter. There's a huge difference and a huge jump between being a millionaire and a middle class American. But these jumps keep getting further and further. And that as that continues, we will continue fighting each other over. We will continue fighting each other over. For a millionaire, for a millionaire, a $5,000 spending is like spending 50 buck or $5. For a billionaire, spending $500,000 is like spending $50. Get it? Difference is huge. I'm a billionaire. I'm spending 500,000 like it's 50 bucks. I'm a millionaire. I'm spending $5,000 like it's 50 bucks, or $50,000 is like 50 bucks. Yeah, 1,000 million equals 1 billion. That's right. So once you understand this, you're like, holy shit. And this person doesn't have 1 billion. This person's got like 100 billion. Why do you have 100 billion? Whose money did you steal? Whose money did you steal? So rethink who you're fighting. Convince others that, yes, we might disagree on ideology. We might disagree on faith. We might disagree on economy. But at least, can we get the billionaires to pay their fair share? At least, can we stop this classist war? At least, can we have a share access to our economy? Can we at least have a real capitalistic system? Because the United States doesn't even make it to the top 10 most capitalistic economy on the globe. Did you know that? You don't make it to the top 10. We got people coming out. We got the capitalistic economy. We need to make sure not have socialism. Okay, that's fine. Slow down, baby. Let's have real capitalistic system. Where's my equal access to the economy? Why is it so impossible for me to open a restaurant? Why is it so goddamn hard to open an electronics store? Why is it so hard to open a telephone company? It's so hard. Do you have an additional takeout? Hit 50,000, $100,000 to open a restaurant? No one has that. Not a lot of people have that to do, laying around. Foreign people that are coming investing in this company, they're taking their whole tribe money and coming over. Some Indian people that are opening that are opening gas stations, their families tribe has collected money from the whole tribe, sent one of or few members from their tribe over to come to the United States to open a gas station so that gas station can make some money and send it back home so they can feed themselves because their economy is so fucked up over there. That's just one example. Do you have that money? You don't have that money. Do you have that connection with the tribe to help you open a restaurant? No. So when someone tells you we got a capitalistic system, tell them why aren't we in the top 10? Ask why aren't we in the top 10? It's a simple question. Someone says, being in Minnesota, maybe you already heard this. I have not. Get four Lutherans together and and there's always a fifth. That's a funny joke. Catholic fathers could get a little naughty when they're drunk too. I've hung out with plenty of Catholic priests, and I've hung out with a Catholic monk once, and I had a lot of conversations with Catholic monks. Very interesting people. Not many people know that there's monasteries for monks in the U.S., like actual Catholic monks that wear like the Catholic monk clothes, the brown thing or the black thing, and they live and eat together all at a church and they farm their food. It's very interesting, and there's one in Kansas City. And when I was a student at Kansas State University, I became close with the Catholic monk. He was pretty cool. We exchanged a lot of wisdom from each other. It was really nice. When even when you talk to someone you disagree with, if you come into the mindset that there's maybe a chance I could learn some wisdom out of all of the things that I don't disagree with, I might take out one good thing. Think about it that way. You're always going to learn something new. Because when you look at people, look at them as puzzle pieces that fits into one huge, constantly growing puzzle piece that you have to find and attach it to this puzzle. And you take this person and you go, and the more you get to meet, the more you understand, the more you put yourself in their shoes and start. Um, there's a there is a philosophy called behind the veil. Don't ask me who started it, but I will tell you this because it is a very important technique for you to start practicing. The philosophy goes, if you want to become a just ruler, you have to put yourself behind the veil. You ask, what is behind the veil, Wajeeh? Behind the veil is when you take yourself and you put yourself behind a veil where you you get rid of your identity, meaning you try not to think of whether you're what race you are. You try to think of not think of what political class you come from, what economic class you come from, whether you're have a disability or don't have a disability. You try not to think about any of this, and you try to think of what like what you think of is you think what I could be, which is I could be all of it. Possibility I could be blind. There's a possibility I could be deaf. There's a possibility that I can be white. Once you get rid of your identity behind that veil and you start thinking about rules and regulations, the first thing you should be thinking of is how is this going to affect not me? Or if I was this person from this race, from and I was disabled. It's really technical. I really strongly advise you to look it up and read about how you can practice being behind the veil because it is an exercise that will go with you a long way when you want to make decisions that affect you and more importantly affect a lot of people because these decisions are not affecting just you, they're affecting a whole society. And and when you start practicing that, you find yourself able to do it when you start having conversations with people you disagree with. And that allows you to, even when they are discussing things that you strongly disagree with, for a moment allows you to get out of your shoes and step into their shoes and think about it. I a lot of time practice imagining myself being in behind the veil, whether I even in the shoes of people I really hate, being like being in the shoes of Mohammed bin Salman, and I try to think what I would be doing if I was a dictator against these civilians, and I try to understand why someone like him would make a bad decision and kill many innocent people, and how I would be afraid for my seat if I was him or something like that. That's really hard to practice. That's really hard to reach. So for you to reach that position, you have to do it constantly. You have to do it constantly. Um, that's a good exercise, but it will get you to start understanding things that you didn't used to understand. And it will allow you to step out of your comfort zone. And stepping out of your comfort zone is the first step you can do to learn something new. Wow, so many questions. Thank you guys. How are the people in Lebanon doing? They're not doing so well at all. They are struggling in every way possible you can imagine. Before the war, they were struggling economically. Their port a few years ago was exploded out of carelessness from Lebanese authority. The government is on the verge of failure. Ceasefire is on paper and never has been active and on the ground in reality. Millions of people have been displaced out of their homes. There's a direct correlation between the number of people getting killed and the number of people getting displaced. The Israeli government has annexed about 10 to 13 kilometers of Lebanese territory, calling it a buffer space. They have also bulldozed a lot of the houses in southern Lebanon, which basically tells you that they are permanently trying to alter the geographic landscape of the southern of Lebanon, which tells me that they're planning to stick around there for a while, which tells me that there isn't going to be much of actual peace talks or result from those peace talks. I'm reading a question. If you don't, السؤال هو هل تعتقد أن الأرواح الشيطانية والشياطين تؤثر على هؤلاء القادة الذين يؤمنون بالأعمال الشيطانية؟ Um, the answer to your questions about do you think like demonic spirits affect the current leaders of the um United States. I think it. I'm a spiritual person, but I think people make their own decisions, and I think that if there are any demonic, it's those the same people are the demonic people. Um, but that word doesn't mean much to me as much as many people who follow faith. What I'm trying to say is the real monster is the one making the decision of killing innocent life. The real monster is the one making the tools and giving the making like the CEO of Peloton, what is it called? The one that makes the guy that goes and our system kills people on occasion. I forgot what's his name or his Pel Pe, Pe, Palantir. Yes, the CEO of Palantir. Palantir is a company that originally made AI system to solve a very real problem the US military had that started existing especially after 9/11, which is how they would connect their isolated security systems that don't talk to each other to start talking to each other in a way that makes sense without making weird graphs. Um, One of those people that decided to get in that market was Payoneer, and they were active for a very long time to the point where their software system was actually used to finalize the analyzation of the location of Osama bin Laden. FYI. And as more successful that software gotten, as more integrated the U.S. Uh, security apparatus started getting connected to it. And then they found a perfect opportunity to start doing the same thing with different sectors of the government. So ICE uses that software, Palantir, and instead of spending, days or weeks making sure that they fact check and make sure that the people that they're going after are actually the people that they're going after, this AI system was the one that made it easier for them to do this in less than an hour, being able to take down thousands of people a day. And that basically tells you everything you need to know about Palantir, that their software is going to be the new police system of the globe. It takes everything that you post on social media and it adds it to the system. It takes your government information and it adds it to the system. It takes the criminal records and it adds it to the system, and it adds all the economic data that they're part of and it adds it to the system. And it creates this huge database that their AI starts like connecting the dots for. And you're basically no longer having any privacy. The United States was able to hit more than 300 targets in an hour one time just because of Palantir. So depending on who you talk to, that's really cool or that's really awful. Palantir. Palantir. Thank you. Ay. Yeah, that's right. The Bible was written in Aramaic. Any other questions? What are what is the female role in the Gulf's military? They're there for, female, like they're there to respond mostly toward other female interactions. They're used mainly during holiday and holy seasons to be part of crowd control when it comes to Hajj season, for example, and where men can't go, women can. So they have female police, they have female military specifically to deal with those type of issue. Female prison only deals with female guards, so on and so forth. Uh, I haven't, some of them are pilots. Some of them were active in hitting targets in Yemen and targets in other region, but they depends. That's a very weird situation. Have I been to Hajj? No, I've been to Umrah, but I've been there like I've lost count of how many times I've been there. Limitations, they don't have any according to or regarding the female role militarily. Um, they don't take any real like actual big positions. Um, like you won't find generals or the head of the military as a woman. Tell Malcolm not to throw in the dandelions. Why? Because of Ice Age? I know they're good for you. I've never eaten them all. Any other questions, y'all? It's we've been almost 2 hours here, and I think we've done good today. Love the Ice Age reference. Dandelion. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share while you're here. We reached 335. Thank you so much for everyone that came in. If you wait a little longer, we'll publish this live stream as a recording on Substack, and I will publish it on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and share and subscribe. Click that bell icon so you can receive the latest notification. If you like this type of content, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. It helps pays the bills for us so we could do this all day. So you don't have to do it all day. Um, Take a minute. The weather is amazing today. Breathe outside, go to a park, take a look at the animals. It's very, very makes you feel human, and it makes you feel like you're a part of this planet. Love each other and know that with a smile and with dedication and with a big heart, there's a lot more likeliness that you will change the hearts and minds of people. Know that not everyone think with facts, and a lot of people think with emotions, and that if you come into an argument a lot of times with your facts, you may lose that argument right away. And if you come in to people to talk and you come in with emotions and love and generosity, it will make a difference. People will start hearing you out. You don't want to convince people about an ideology, for example, before you have fed their tummies. You don't want to negotiate with someone while they're hungry. Feed them. Let them know that they're loved. Let them know that they're welcome. Let them know that regardless of their religion or their ideology or their political stance, that you're not against them, that there's someone else that is oppressing all of us down. That's the main message that you should take out today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as I like to say, مع السلامة, bye bye. بالإنجليزي, goodbye. See you tomorrow.